Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. I have got the wonderful Pam Hanlon on today's episode. Now, Pam is just the most lovely, lovely person. And I've got to say, it's the first time she's been on a podcast. So, Pam from Paua, thank you for joining me, my darling. It's lovely to see you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
And as we both said, we had a very, 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 very long chat before we started recording. So I'm going to cover some of the stuff we've talked about.
Right.
But
Just
yeah,
not all of it, all is, right?
No, not all of it. No, we'll keep those bits out. But listen, thank you. Let's get a little bit of background. You know, you've listened. I always talk about people's background because I always think that it's really important for people to understand a little bit about you. Tell me what happened before Paua. What did you do before Paua? What was your background and how did you get into the organisation?
Okay. So I spent about 20 years working in banking, I started as a customer service agent in Bank of Ireland. Way back when, we're talking a long time ago. So I started as a customer service agent and kind of, funnily enough, I don't even know how it happened, but I kind of ended up working as a financial advisor because my employer at the time, or my manager at the time, had found that I was quite good at closing deals. So, doing like balance transfers and stuff like that, found that I was really good at doing that. So ended up there. I was in the bank in Ireland for, as I say, 20 odd years. Then I went into insurance, which is really health insurance. And then I left Ireland and I moved to Leeds about 10 years ago. Went back into banking, obviously had my son in the meantime. Went back into banking in First Direct, worked there for a period of time. And then my son was going to school in Farsley. So looked for a job in Farsley and found the Phoenix Works, and it sounded like an incredible opportunity. Because it was in renewable energy, and I had no background in it. I didn't know anything about it. I went in for this job and I met Carly Woodhead, who did my interview at the time, and we sat down. And when you meet somebody and for like 10 minutes you're just chit-chatting and having a laugh, and you just mesh really well. And then we kind of remembered that we needed to do an actual interview. So we did the interview. And I really, really wanted the job because at the time, the Phoenix Works were teamed up with Tonic. If anybody remembers Tonic, who was an energy company back in the day, they both worked together at the time. And I thought, this is something new. It's a new challenge, something I've never had. Coming from a finance background, renewable energy was probably the furthest thing away from at the time. I started working in the Phoenix Works, and I mean, like, from not knowing anything, the amount of time and energy Tom Newby and Matt Morgan, who were the CEO and CTO at the time, I'm pretty sure Matt was CTO, but I'm not 100% sure. They put in time and effort, and Carly as well, and a couple of the other people in the team. They really, educated me and like, what are installs, how do they work, what cable size do you need, all of everything that I could have. I was so lucky that I landed up with them to get into this industry, and I worked with them for 4 years, and then they were taken over by another company, and Laura, who works with Neil, I didn't know this until afterwards, but Neil had said to Laura he was looking for a salesperson. And Laura said, if you're looking for sales, you're looking for Pam. So he reached out, we had a conversation. And again, like it's meant to be a 15-minute meeting, an hour and a half later, we're sitting in our chairs, laughing back and forth, getting on. And he's just such a good person. So I thought, you know what, let's do it. Let's come over, because it was a new challenge. I'd done sales with the Phoenix Works. We'd done like 200% of target. We'd brought that company to somewhere I didn't know I was capable of doing it. I hadn't, because I didn't understand. I had to learn so much, but to take the company so far. Through lockdown, through all the other things and all the other challenges that happened in that period of time. So I came over and met Neil, then I met Andre, who's the CTO. So the magic behind all the technology and how beautiful it is, the way that Paua works in the background. And again, started working with Paua, and it's probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Like these people are incredible, like next level.
So Neil Riddle was one of my first ever guests when I started the podcast. Yeah, and you're right. He's an amazing, lovely guy. In fact, partway through, he stopped to tell dad jokes, which did make me chuckle.
Standard.
So if you want to listen back, check out the early episodes
back to have a listen to that.
with Neil. But yeah, he's so he's CEO, isn't he? And then what? So Andre's
CTO. So he's the one who builds all the magnificentness that makes Paua.
So tell us about Paua then. Like I say, just if you've listened to Neil, forget what you heard from Neil. Let's hear it from Pam. What does Paua? And when we talk about Paua, we're spelling it Paua for those of you that don't know Paua.
Yes, but pronounced like
so tell us.
Paua as in power, which is what people get confused with. So Neil is Neil, but spelled Nile, and then Paua is spelled Paua, not Pua, which is what people, and that's his joke too. So I'm just taking a nod from him. So when I joined Paua, firstly, the reason I joined is obviously because the people were incredible, and the interview process, it wasn't really an interview, went so well. But then I had to get into it and learn what it was, because I didn't know what it was. So I'd come from a B2C background. This was completely different, a whole new challenge, B2B. So what is B2B? How do you get into it? And also, what is this? What's the product? What are we selling here, right? So as a sales kind of person, that's what you've got to get into. So when we sat down, we went into it, and the guys were great. They did a lot of training in the background with me. A lot of people don't know, like, it's an RFID card, radio frequency identification card. Like, what is that? How does it work? How does it connect? So what a lot of people are seeing at the moment, or what you'll hear a lot of at the moment, is the pre-authorization fees that happen with like a credit card or debit card.
And this is for EV charging, isn't
Exactly.
it? It's specifically for EV charging.
And it's for our main focus is to work with businesses currently. So what it is that you provide a business with cards so that their employees can go out and use the public network by having this card, this magic pink card, that they go up, they touch the card, the charge starts working, and off you go. That's it. There's no more like, oh, it didn't work, it didn't connect, oh, what's going on, when do I get the bill, how much is this going to take out of my bank account? There's none of that. It takes away all of that. It also protects people against fraud. They have no card details, no personal details on it. All it has is like a Paua number at the back of it, and that's it. So you don't have to worry about, if someone finds my card, they're going to be able to rob all my money. None of that happens with an RFID card. And what I found out recently was, initially they hadn't planned to have an RFID card because they have this incredible app that they've built that does everything that card has. But people like a physical thing that they can hold in their hand, but also covers you for both things, right? So you have a card that you can walk up and touch, because with an app you might not have data signal, so you might not be able to charge off an app. True. So we covered both. And then with the app, you can also start charging from the app as well. So you just stand in front of the charger, you select the charger you're on, you click charge, and off you go. It's done. It's easy. That's the whole point of Paua, and why Paua was built, was to make public charging easy. And that's that's the end goal, right? We just want anybody
Yeah.
who adopts to an electric vehicle to make their life easier. So you walk up, you plug it in, and off you go. On the app, we've built in things like, are the charge points available before you get there? How much is it going to cost before you get there? Because these are all things that you don't know, right? We've also built in a route planner. So, if you're going from, I always use Leeds to London because I'm in Leeds and Neil is in London. So you put in the
Yeah.
route planner where you're going, and it will show you all of the Paua enabled chargers along that journey. We've also built in things like filters. So what speed charger are you looking for? What connector type are you looking for? And how many hubs would you like to be in a hub? How many available chargers would you like to be there when you get there? So you can select anything from 1 up to 10. So when these are all of these additional things that we keep building are all things that customers have told us that they want. So that's what we've done. Every time somebody comes back to us with an idea, we take that idea on board, it goes in, and then we see how quickly we can implement it for them. And that's kind of the beauty about Paua. It isn't run by anybody else. There's nobody. Paua is built and designed by Paua. There's nobody outside telling us what we need to do or how we need to do it. It's all internal conversations about what is working best for customers. And then obviously we've built the dashboard, and the dashboard provides the fleet manager with all of the insights, reporting capabilities, probably more features than you will ever need. But if you do need them, they're there. If they're not there, ask us and we'll get them for you. That's the beauty, and that's why I love being with Paua so much, is that they're not waiting for somebody else to tell them what to do. They listen to the customers. Whatever the customers tell us that they're looking for, that's going to be one of the things that we're going to build next, because that's, we've built this from the ground up to do what it is. Public charging for us isn't an afterthought. It's not something that we've been dragged in to do. It's our only thought. It's what we wake up in the morning getting ready to do on a daily basis. And that's what I love about being here, and then we work on so many different products, although Paua Access, which is providing access to 53, actually I think we're 55,000 connectors nationwide. Like building something like that and then having the card with it. So having Paua Access has now linked us into being able to do Paua Reimburse. And what Paua Reimburse does is it looks after the personal and business drivers, personal versus business mileage. Like we all know the AER rate is mainly good for people who have home charging, as long as they can get on the cheaper tariffs at night, right? But if they can't, and they're paying the more expensive rates, how do they get reimbursed fairly? And then taking public charging into that with the AER rate, like your miles out of pocket. Like we did a calculation based on when it was 9p, then it went to 8p, now it's 7p. But our calculation on the 9p worked out that if drivers are using 20% public charging, they're up to £400 out of pocket if they're being reimbursed for the AAR rate.
Yeah.
And if you increase that up to 50%, that's £1,000 out of their pocket. Like, a lot of those drivers are drivers that aren't on the really high wages and are not, making tons of money. So when you hit them with £1,000, you really hit them,
Yeah.
And so that's why we've built Reimburse. We built Paua Reimburse to be able to help personal and business drivers, but also business only drivers, right? Because as I said earlier, the whole thing is to make public charging easy, but now we're going into a space where it's not only public charging, it's also home charging, depot charging, taking all of these different charging locations and putting them into one place. So it's easy for the business and for the drivers, because that's who we're trying to look after, right? Making sure that everybody can access public, home and depot charging, putting all of those 3 different locations into one place and giving them back that information. Because that's what we're about, right? It's just trying to make it easy. So let's just make it easy.
Exactly. Because like you say, you don't want somebody to feel that they are using either their home charging or public charging and think that they're not able to get the money
Yeah,
back.
you
So
don't
at
want them
least
to be
you're
out of
giving them.
pocket. That's the most important thing. Like where it hits me and where I always think about it is if Bob, poor Bob, I always use Bob as an example. I don't know who Bob is, but we'll say Bob. If Bob is using his personal card for charging, he's not only been stung with the charging cost, he's got pre-authorization fees that are now going to come out of his
Yeah,
bank account as well, right? And it's not like they get returned tomorrow. Like some of them
no.
can take up to 10 days, maybe longer. So if you're at the
Mm,
end of your month
mm,
before you get paid, right, and you're trying to charge your car for work, but also, or charge vehicle, whichever vehicle it is, for work, but you also need to like get the dinner, you need to do the last week's shopping, and you're using your card, so it hasn't only taken the charging costs, it's taken your pre-authorization costs. It's like 2 or 3 days before payday. Like, which decision are you going to make? Because I know I'm going to choose feeding my family over putting electric into my car. So that's why the RFID card works so perfectly, because you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to look at your life situation and try and make a choice. You've got this little pink card in your hand and you walk up, you touch it, and off you go. Do you know what I mean? It's easy.
So with regards to the types of companies that you're working with, and you mentioned about fleet managers, but what size do you go from and to? I mean, as fleet managers, I know, for example, Lorna McAteer at National Grid has got thousands of vehicles, hasn't she?
Yeah.
But I mean, when we're looking at kind of the companies that you're dealing with, are we looking at kind of just a few people in a company, right, up to massive ones? How does it work?
So we go from as little as two all the way up to like, we Royal Mail is one of our customers. So you go from like two drivers all the way up to however many you need. The beauty about Power is that it's buildable and changeable and that we have control over that. So we get to go from two. This is what I mean. We want to help everybody. So anything from a fleet of two up to 4 million, whatever, it makes no difference. It's for everybody. Anybody who is part of a fleet or grey fleet, personal and business drivers, anyone like that. That's kind of the point of what we want to do. We're trying to help everybody. That's what we want to do.
I mean, and I've got a power card because I was helping. So there's a couple of
Power.
yeah,
Sorry,
I have, and
upper
actually,
Sussex by it.
I've got to say, I love you, I love the So Pam's wearing a pink scarf at the moment. For those of you who are listening or watching in black and white, and actually, it is the collar, it is the power collar, isn't it? And
Yeah,
actually,
and the navy dress. Actually, I totally wore the
there you
colours.
go. And if every time I go to an event, there's you and Laura and Neil there, or the rest of the team, and you can see them, they stand out so
I mean, you can't
brilliantly.
miss us.
No, I mean that in a lovely way, but actually, it's because you're called the Power Rangers, aren't you? Which I love. I love everybody
Yeah,
calls you the Power Rangers because you're just out there, and all the stuff that you're doing is brilliant. From my point of view, using the power card took out a lot of stress, really, because sometimes you can go to a public charger and you don't always know what you're getting. And like you said, the pre-authorization fees can be up to 45 quid.
I've actually heard them at like
And
£90, which is
that's just mad. And
mental.
I know that's not necessarily to do with the charge point operator. I know
No,
that's the bank, isn't it?
yeah,
Because I've heard people kind of asking the question, how come if you've got a pre-authorization fee at a petrol station, you get it back more or less straight away? There's some difference in, and I don't know what it is. I don't think I've got an answer for this podcast episode, why the pre-auth takes quite a long time to actually be taken back off your card. But
yeah.
actually, my very, very, very first, it wasn't public charging, it was private charging. My first experience was I was doing some work up in Nuneaton. We'd only had our car for a very short length of time. And I thought, right, I'll book into a hotel that's got charging. And there were 10 connectors there. And for my very first experience, it was shocking. It really was.
Yeah.
The app wouldn't work. it it tried to connect to my bank twice and pre-authed £45 times two,
Yeah.
and actually, because if you have these things, there's not, please, for those of you who are new to EV or thinking about getting an EV, please don't let this put you off, because there are certain companies that will do this, but there are other ones that don't. There are other networks that will only kind of take a pound pre-auth and things like that. So, and some work with their banks to kind of provide it back, put it back in your bank account earlier.
Yeah.
But this one was, I didn't have a power card then. Like I say, couldn't get the app. I tried twice and it failed. On the third time, I just thought, there's no way I'm going to have like 135 quid's worth of pre-auth fees on my bank. So I gave up,
Yeah, and that not always, again, like it happens on occasions, but that is what we're trying to get away from, to be able to, like, and even in businesses they'll have limits on cards, right? If you
Yeah.
get a load of pre-authorization fees on your business card, then you might not be able to have the facility to charge. And we all know how important it is for drivers to be able to get back on the road to do the job they need to do, right? So spending however long trying to download apps, use your card, get this thing, do that thing. That's why we've connected with over, I think, 35 different charge point operators to be able to allow people to just go up, tap their card, the green light comes on, and off they go on their merry little way. Go get your cup of coffee, go get your sandwich for your lunch, come back, sit down, eat it, unplug, and off you go. Do you know what I mean? It's as I said, and I keep saying, it is about making it easy, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
And we
So
don't want it to be complicated, do we? As an EV driver myself, what you're providing me with is a method of standardized, kind of use. So I know what I'm getting from my power card, that actually I tap and plug in, and it just works. It just works, and it takes all of that kind of stress and strain away. I know, obviously, if you're a consumer, it's slightly different, because but if you have got the ability to kind of build or get power, sort of, I'm not just saying this because I'm not trying to be your salesperson, I'm really not, but actually from my point of view, that's what it's done for me. It's made it so much easier just to be able to tap,
yeah,
rather than have all that kind of faff that sometimes you don't know whether you're tapping and then plugging in. Sometimes sometimes you're doing, I mean, you kind of end up doing a bit of a jig sometimes. Do I have to use the app? Do I have to do that? Can I use contactless? And we know that the regulations, I think, is it for over 7 kilowatts? I'm not quite sure. In November, they've got to have contactless
yeah.
by then. So all public charging and private charging should be using contactless above a certain number of kilowatts. I think it's seven and above,
I think,
or
yeah,
above
I
7.
think they've said like 8 and above. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't quite the overnight charges,
Yeah,
was it?
it's
Or
not like your home chargers or your slower
yeah.
on-street chargers, which are incredible. It's those faster ones. But because we offer like a range of slow, fast, rapid, ultra rapid, we've got 77% of all of the rapid chargers in the UK, all of them. And then with slower chargers, we collaborate with companies like Chargy or Charge My Street to make it easier for people who can't have or don't have chargers on their house, for them to be able to use those slower chargers. We've got like Source London, again, another slower charger. A lot of our customers will be people who work on, like, they'll pull up and they'll work in a place for a period of time. So they don't need rapid chargers, right? So they don't have to pay for rapid chargers. They can use the slower chargers, bringing down their costs and allowing them to park while they work all day.
Yeah.
So they're not paying parking prices. They're not, do you know what I mean? It's allowing people to let charging fit into their life, not
Yeah.
put their life around charging. That's the beauty of it, right? So there are so many options out there for people. And even all these new technologies are starting to come in. anything that helps move us forward in the right direction is the most important thing, right? So maybe electric charging isn't for literally every single person, but as we move and progress on, there will be different options. It's just finding what option is right for you. And it's the same with the speed of the chargers as well. In some businesses, yes, getting on a rapid charger, getting charged and getting out the door is great. If you're working in a place for maybe 4 or 5 hours, maybe longer, charge while you're doing that. Don't pay for parking and then go pay for charging. Do what is it? Kill two birds with one stone.
Absolutely.
So, and it's
Absolutely.
these things that people don't always know about that we like to help and educate people. I mean, the blogs that Neil has written, even I've written a few, which is something I'd never done before I went to
Oh,
Paua.
bless you.
But you do them all the time as well. So, like, it's all about people who are in the know, trying to educate and help the people who haven't yet made a transition, or even if they had, giving them little hints and tips to make their lives easier.
Totally
So
agree. Totally agree. There are so many people out there. I don't know whether you saw there was I can't remember. It's the Energy and Climate Unit, Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit that Colin Walker is part of. There was a poll, kind of. I think they shared it in the Mirror, and somebody else shared it on a kind of WhatsApp group I'm in, and it was basically saying the number of people who don't know. They don't know anything about EVs. They've just heard
yes,
stuff in inverted
yes,
commas, and a
yeah.
lot of that stuff isn't always the truth. Do you know what I mean? And actually, what you're doing, what Neil's doing, what we're trying to do is help those potential drivers who are thinking about it to kind of actually understand this a little bit more. And
Yeah.
actually, and I know some people don't like the word education, but actually,
It is
what else is
education,
it?
though. If I know something and you don't know it, and I help you get to know that thing, what is that word called? Right?
Exactly, exactly. That's what
I
it
met
is.
a woman at an event last year, the British Motor Show. Laura was up on a panel, and she was trying to teach and help and educate people on this panel by answering their questions. And there was a lady sat behind us, and you could tell that she wanted to make the change, or she wanted to move over to electric, but she wasn't sure. She didn't want the commitment of it. So the panel had ended, and I just turned around to her and I said, listen, have you got 5 minutes afterwards, and we'll just go outside and have a chat? So we went outside anyway, and I said to her, like, what's preventing you? She's like, I just don't know. Like, I'm nervous. I hear all these stories. And I turned around and I said to her, listen, the best advice I can give anybody who is thinking about getting an EV is to go and rent one for a period of time, a week, a weekend, a long weekend. Try it for yourself. Stop listening to all the outside noise, because I can't tell you what you're going to like, no more than somebody else can tell you, oh, you won't like an EV. How do they know? How do you know what somebody else will like, right? They
Exactly.
will only know if they go, they try it for themselves, they make their own decision and then come back. So but she was like, had never thought about doing something like this, but there's so many options out there for people, like, to be able to go out and, like, hire cars for a period of time, trial it for themselves. There's so many different ways that you can learn how, try it for yourself. And if it's not right now, that maybe you don't like the EVs right now, or try it again in another 6 months, keep on trialing it. It's like when you're a child. I always go back to this. When you're a child and you don't like food, right? And then you try it a while later, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've missed out on all these years liking this really cool food that I now love.
Yeah.
It's all about that, isn't it? It's trial and error. See if you like it, see if you don't. But nobody else can tell you anything. Like, I have a really funny story. So I was at home in Ireland with my sister, right? And her electricity meter is outside her house. And because I used to work with installing chargers, obviously I was trying to convince my sister to go and get an electric car. It's like Deb, your electricity meter's on the outside of your house, perfect location for a charger, it'd be great. So her mother-in-law comes over and oh, what are you talking about, girls? And I said, oh, I'm just trying to get Deborah into getting an electric vehicle. And she was like, an electric vehicle, Pam. I was like, yeah. She's like, in Ireland. I was like, yeah. And she's like, what about the puddles? I was like, pardon? And she's like, the puddles.
Oh,
I was
bless
like,
her.
oh, Trish, like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, what? And she was, obviously, it's the, scaremongering. Oh, you can't drive an electric vehicle through a puddle. But they go through puddles much better than petrol or diesels do, right? So they glide through them so much easier than what you would. And it's that scaring thing that we need to, like, why? Why are you trying to scare somebody? Why would you not help them make up their own mind and tell them, go try it?
Well, it's because they're reading a load of rubbish in the news or whatever, whichever newspaper they're reading, whichever one wants to stab EVs in the back or whatever. And actually, and I've mentioned this a long time ago, but probably in January, I drove through a flood in our car. I must admit, I was scared. A word that I won't actually say, but I was very scared because I don't like floods. Because I have a friend who had, this is years ago, she had a Saab 9.3 soft top convertible, and she was picking me and my friend up from the airport. Like I say, this is like late 90s, so a long, long time ago, and her car died in a flood. So I am a little bit cautious when it comes to floods. We had
Yes.
no choice. There were cars behind us, cars in front of us, and actually I just had to just go through it. And REV was brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, it's that this is what I mean about trialing it, right? You were
Yeah,
scared, you trialed it, now you know it's okay.
yeah,
And this is the thing. It's like, try it for yourself. Stop, ignore the outside noise, because nobody can tell you what you like and what you don't like. So try
absolutely.
it for yourself. That's always been my message to everybody is, see for yourself how it goes. And figure it out for you. And if it didn't work for you then, maybe it'll work for you now. If it doesn't work for you now, maybe it'll work in 6 months.
Yeah, and you can actually, so you can either rent them from, I know that Europe Cars got quite a lot of EVs that,
Yeah,
you can hire them. There's subscription services where you can have them for like a minimum of a month, and you
yeah.
can keep changing vehicles until you find one you like,
And the
you know?
second-hand market is getting, incredible now. Like Enterprise do it, Europe
Mm,
Car do it,
mm,
Hertz do it, as far as I know.
okay.
Th- There's that many companies out there who do it. And then looking for a second-hand electric vehicles, that market is now starting to
It is.
grow substantially.
Yeah.
And actually, the cost of EVs is starting to come down. There's now companies who are doing EVs for the same price as they're doing their petrol and diesel versions. So it's now the time to try it, see how you like it. And that expense part is not as daunting as it may have been before. But like,
Mm,
you have a home charger installed, you use the public charger as and when you need to. And if you've got depot charging in work, make the most of it. Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Especially if they're doing it for a lower cost or for free. Make the most of it. It can be extremely cost saving to switch to an EV now.
Oh, totally. So it costs us £3 to charge from kind of empty to full on our home charger. When I was when if I could get, I know how many miles I could get from our VW Golf. I'm trying to think. It was about 300 something, maybe. I can't even remember now. But I know that even then it was costing me £75 for a full tank.
Yeah. Do
You
you know what I
know,
mean?
and
And if you're doing that on a weekly basis, you can see how quickly it wraps up, where you're able to save all of that additional cost. Like, if you're doing it for, what does your car mileage do currently?
well, currently ours is quite low, so because we've got a smaller battery, so our battery size is 38.5. So in the summer, maximum we get is about just under 200, but in the winter, 'cause obviously you get kind of a drop in mileage, we get about 160-ish. But I don't drive more than 100, and I tend to stop after 120 miles, 120
It
miles because I
doesn't.
need the
My
loo.
bladder won't let me
Yeah,
go that long of a distance without having to stop to go for a
exactly
wee,
that.
right? But even back to what you were like, if your petrol or diesel cost you £75, and to do more mileage actually on 2 charges at home, it would cost you £6.
Yeah.
So you're saving yourself £69 for doing the same journey, or longer actually, in an EV.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, right?
It does,
Well,
absolutely.
you've got people then who can't have home chargers on them, and what they need to do then is to be able to rely on public charging. So helping them go from different options of chargers, different ranges of chargers. I mean, with Paua's nationwide coverage, so true nationwide coverage. So helping people go from, I think we did the EV Rally back what, 3 years
July.
ago, where we did John
Oh.
O'Groats to
Oh, yes.
Land's End.
Yeah, you did it. That's
And
a
that
long
was
time
3
ago.
years ago, and people have been saying, oh, the infrastructure isn't there. And I get that it's patchy, right? I get that. I'm not saying it's not there. With Paua, on average, you're never more than five miles away from a Paua-enabled charger. That's how many chargers. And we've over half of the network connected with now, right? So if you think about that on a full level, if we had every single charger in the UK, you would be never more than like 2.5 miles from a Paua enabled charger. Like that's like, and people talk about range anxiety, and I get it from like before.
Yeah.
But times have changed, lads.
Yeah.
Stop spinning the story from way back when. It's not the case anymore. Yeah, it can be more challenging for vans and trucks and stuff, but we're working on other projects to help that along as well. So we've just announced that we're doing the innovation project for Paua Pins, which is private infrastructure networks solution.
Okay.
So working with companies like, we've teamed up with like Oxfordshire and Suffolk County Council, and also Senex, and I'm pretty sure Spiri is in there as well, which we all know and love.
Yeah.
So you will see that there's a lot of it's all about collaboration, right? So we're all coming together to build this infrastructure to be able to share those private networks with other companies, to be able to allow them access to make money, basically, for the company who has installed those chargers, allow them to be able to make money when they couldn't normally, but also to allow those bigger trucks and vans and all of those, buses and stuff like that, to be able to charge and use each other's networks instead of everybody putting in more infrastructure and not being able to make money out of it. So their return on investment increases significantly by being able to share this. And Paua, like, we love being part of innovation projects. It's like, again, it's that helping everybody to be able to access charging, right? So it's that making it possible for things that may seem impossible.
And actually, I suppose if you're thinking about vans and trucks, and I was talking, and this will probably be out around the same time as this podcast episode, I was talking to Amy Carter from DAF, and actually, it's a very different requirement for a van or a truck, isn't it? Some vans, like your DHL size, can fit. I've seen them in our kind of local, kind of rapid charger, kind of in the little hub near to us, so they can fit. But if we're talking about trucks, anything that's an Arctic or anything like that, then that's a different requirement. So I suppose opening up the networks to give them the ability to use other people's depots is brilliant, because not all their vans or trucks are going to come back until the end of the day, are they?
Exactly.
Or maybe even a couple of days later.
You may be able to pull in and use that during the day. You may be able to, if they charge during the day but don't charge at night, then you can open your network at night, and you're able to, make the most out of the infrastructure that's already there, right? But there's actually, really interestingly, with different types of trucks, they need different types of turning, which is something I didn't know or didn't consider, right? Because I'm not in that industry.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you learn on a daily basis about other industries that, and like even truck turning, or how one part turns and the other part turns after it, which Amy obviously will know loads about because she's incredible, right? And so being able to learn these things all the time to be able to help and change and make a difference is incredible, right? So we all get to learn and share about different things that we learn on a daily basis. And doing projects like this, innovation projects for Paua, it's incredible for us to be able to be a part of it. But we want to be a part of it because we can do it. We can help because we build our own technology and it's all in-house with us. It's incredible to be able to go, right, how can we help other people do these other things as well?
And you've
And
been
it's
involved
just great.
in many other innovation projects, because I know that's something that Neil Riddle, your CEO, has kind of wanted to be involved in. So actually, do you know what? Yeah, give me an example of something else and then we'll talk about the EV rally, because we can't miss that.
No, we definitely can. So the other innovation projects that we worked on one recently actually, which was for like fraud prevention and how to do fraud prevention. So we worked on a project with that where we trialed telematics, we trialed connected car, we trialed how to, like, because with our cards you can freeze and unfreeze them if you lose them, like you might lose your bank card on a Saturday night, find it down the sofa on a Sunday morning. Not that that's ever happened to me or anything like that. And you can just log into your app, you can freeze it and unfreeze it, right? So the same way you can with your bank card. And so working on little projects like this allows us to collaborate with other companies as well to figure out ways of doing this. With connected car, I would say I don't want to like run it down or anything. It's just not there yet, like a lot of other things, like that plug and go.
Yeah.
Like we know how we will do that. So like we've done it, but we just need everybody else to catch up with us. And I think connected car and other things, they're all coming. It's all innovation that's coming and will get there. It's just probably not there yet. But as we know, this industry changes and grows and improves on a daily.
Absolutely.
On a daily, right? So, helping on projects and doing projects like this for us is great because Neil, like, he's such a good guy. Like, he is just the salt of the earth. He's such a good guy. He just wants to help everybody, whether that's making introductions to people or sharing knowledge or any of those things. That's just who he is at his core. He's just a good guy. And so I think that's as many as we can help and we can do. We will absolutely spend time doing this to help bring everybody on this journey with us.
I can't agree with you more about Neil. Like I say, he is just the nicest, most helpful chap, and has such, his creativity is fantastic.
Next level.
Yeah, the
ideas he comes up with and like putting those into place and like figuring out how they work. It's incredible. We do a joke, right? Because we're similar, but we're not similar, right? So we're similar in ways, but we're absolutely completely different in other ways. When we started, we would have our monthly meeting catch-ups, and what we figured out is we have to record them because we bounce so many ideas back and forth that neither one of us were capturing these things. And so because our brains work similarly but differently, it's two different perspectives on an idea. But I love having those sessions with him is great. We just need something to record it first. So it's so cool. Like, I really, really enjoy working with him and the rest of the team. Like, I always describe it as like in Paua, it's like a group of extraordinary people coming together to make what almost seems impossible possible. Like, our CTO, if you say to him, can you build this thing? His response is always, technically, anything is possible, Pam. So, I mean, when you've got people that you work with mindsets like that, it's ground, like coming from a banking background and then insurance and then into this industry, we're just, and then we'd said this earlier, it's a different breed of people, right? We're just a different kind of, everybody has the same goal, trying to push everything forward. So to make things better for everybody else, it's not just about me, myself, and I, and what can I do to get to the next step. That isn't what we're about. We're trying to make this a better thing for everybody.
Absolutely. Like you say, it is just moving along all the time. Talk about moving along. I want to talk about, you mentioned the EV Rally earlier, and you've been involved, like you say.
Twice now, yeah. I
And
think I'd only started in Paua like a week or 2 weeks before the first rally,
yeah.
which was last year.
So tell me how Power got involved with the rally, because you basically provided the charging ability for all of the teams. Like this year, and I was on the rally this year, the GreenFleet EV Rally. Over 5 days, we did about 1,500 miles over 5 days, didn't we? You did it in a van. I don't know how the heck you did it. You did it in a van with what was your top mileage that you
We
could
were
get?
in a second-hand ENV 200 that does up
Oh, it was a
to
Nissan.
100 and yeah. What
Yeah.
did I say Nissan?
No, it's all right.
So yeah, it could do up to 120 miles. We never pushed it that far, right? But it's a CHAdeMO charger too, right? So when you talk
there's
about
less of them.
infrastructure and finding chargers, so when we sat down about the rally, right? So it's usually me, Laura, and Neil in a conversation because we're the wackiest ones that come up with the craziest ideas, right? So it's usually the three of us in a meeting, thinking. And we have these meetings start like maybe 2-3 months before the rally even kicks off. Like we're in planning before that. So when we sat down and we talked about, right, because this is our third year to do the EV rally, could we know the infrastructure is there, right? Because we're connected to most of it. So we were trying to see what else could we do to make it more challenging, right? Right. So we came up with, we'll get a second-hand van and a second-hand car, right? Both with about 120-mile range on them, and both, let's see if we can do CHAdeMO charging, and let's see if we can do, the slower charges as well. So let's just make it extremely difficult for ourselves.
And you did.
We really didn't. We underestimated the challenge, not because of the charging network infrastructure. It had not, we charged every time we went. We didn't really struggle with that, right?
Yeah.
People always go, oh, the EV rally, sure, I could do that in 2 days. That's what people were saying to me 2 days before I went on it. I could do that in 2 days, no problem. I'm like, right, now do it in a second-hand van that's not supposed to do that mileage. And we weren't the only ones. Like Lorna, every vehicle, she had 4 vehicles on the rally. None of those are designed. None of them are designed to do this type of a journey, right?
Yeah.
So it was about putting those vehicles to the test. And when you put a second-hand vehicle to a test like that, especially doing 1,500 miles plus your journey to get there and your journey to get home, because people forget about that bit, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's so easy, I could do that. What they don't take into account is doing that journey with either a person or a group of people, having to be on show constantly, being like having those conversations, the toll it takes on you. Like one night we got in at 12:30, we were up at 6 o'clock the next morning, being on the road. Well, we were up earlier, but on the road at like 6:15, being in a vehicle with somebody for 5 days solid. It does take its toll on you. And then you have to get to your stops, you have to make sure you're there. And people are like, oh, it's easy. It might be easy if you're in a vehicle that does 400 miles without having to be charged, and you're on your own and you do things while you're in the car. But it's not that it's a physical challenge, it's a mental challenge, right? As well, that's what I saw. But what I did take away from this one is that, and the last one as well, the group of people who are in this industry are next level, right? Everybody's so willing to help each other, make sure everyone's okay, everyone's checking in. Like Sam on the motorbike, everybody was like, where is he? Is he okay? Is he all right? And making sure that we're all okay, but we're all looking out for each other at the same time. And also the scenery we saw, those images will be in my head forever.
It
going
was
to
beautiful.
places that I would probably have never gone to, seeing
Mm,
things I would never see, and get to share it with such a great group of people.
mm, mm,
Does so yes, it was hard. It was mentally, physically, emotionally
was.
draining. But would I do it again? Absolutely, I'd do it again. And I didn't say that 2 days after I got back.
No,
So
I didn't either. I didn't. And actually, do you know what? Because I mean, like you said, you were in like a vehicle that could do 120 miles. We were in a Tesla Model Y, which could do 300 or 200 odd miles or whatever, But actually, it was still, it still took its toll. And I wasn't driving all the time, but again, like you say, I was kind of still posting on social media, and I was up late writing the post. That was just for me. Kind
yeah,
of Michelle, who works with me at Full Circle, she was doing the stuff for the Women Drive Electric team, which is the
yeah.
team I was part of. So she was doing that in the background. And I mean, on the day that she was with us, there was no network, and it was really, that's kind of the Wi-Fi network, or any cellular network. It was really hard to get onto and stuff like that. So you're trying to post, and you go into and you've got a number of different checkpoints that you've got to go to,
Yeah. And you have to
and
check in at each one. And then, like, if for any reason that you can't get there, or you miss the people, or you were supposed to be there at a certain time to meet somebody, it's, it's like, it's a lot, but
so
it's worth it.
so for you guys, yours was probably triple the difficulty of ours, but I still, for us, it was still kind of really hard work. I was absolutely shattered afterwards. I mean, I think I was the only driver that was there for the whole 5 days, because lots of everybody that joined, so like
In your group,
George,
yeah.
yeah, George and Michelle, who run Women Drive Electric, they have small kids. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll be there. I can be the driver for all 5 days. Don't worry about it, And then I was just like, oh my God.
I know.
So yeah, it is quite taxing. But your power card looked after, how many teams were there? Was it 30 teams? 20 teams? I
Was
can't
not,
remember now.
I know there was 50 something vehicles.
Yeah,
So it was like 50 something vehicles, but drivers changing daily,
all the
like you were
time.
saying. So some companies had people changing daily. So
We
we had to
did.
make sure those cards were active and ready to go, and everybody had everything they needed. And this year we wanted to do something different. So normally it's the plastic card, right? So we always like to have an element of surprise in our little power packs
Loved
that we
it.
send out. So this year it was to do the wooden cards, and to have those, but also to drive that renewable energy, let's help towards saving the planet, because that's what this is for, right?
Mm,
So let's, instead of doing a plastic card, let's do a wooden card, and let's see how that goes, because again, it's all trial and error. This is not something that other people use all the time, is it? So let's see how it connects. Let's see what we can get back. And yes, it is an RFID card, so it should work like all other cards work. And luckily for us, it did, and people were still able to charge, and great. Now we did have backups as and
yeah,
when, if anybody needed them, we had the other ones as well. So we had the amount of preparation that goes into the EV rally, especially for us,
amazing.
because we're trying to get the power packs out. We're trying, because we want, it's like, get people excited about it. That's why we do EV, the power packs, is that we want to get people excited before they get there. So it's what goes into those, and what's the best way to do that. And like the power sunglasses, Laura will forever be infamous for the power pink sunglasses that
They are
literally
amazing. I should have
everybody
put
has.
them on, shouldn't I? I've actually got them over there, kind of in the other side of my office. So I should not that people who are listening would be able to see them, but the power pack was amazing because you opened it all up, and there were so many lovely things, including, and those of you, sorry, if you're listening, you won't be able to see. I always forget it's Pip or Pop. I always forget it's like a
It's
little
Pip the power penguin.
Pip the Power Penguin. We got Pip the Power Penguin in a pack with some pink power sunglasses. Try saying that too quickly. Um, and it was just the whole feeling of the being involved in the rally,
Yeah.
so actually,
Is
do you know
that
what, I'm going to say to those people who are in fleets and they're starting to transition over to electric, if you're listening, if you've not been part of the GreenFleet EV Rally, I'd get in there, because actually it's a real experience. It's not easy, but the reward is fantastic. And
yeah.
actually, as Pam was saying, some of the scenery is fantastic. I would say the thing that stands out most in my mind was our journey from Exeter through to Chester on the last day, and the
Yeah.
and the actual journey we took through Wales, because we stopped at the Rug estate, and that was the journey around there was just beautiful. It
Yeah.
really was.
It really was incredible. For me, it would have been when we went through, and I can't remember the name, but it is somewhere I have always wanted to go. So bad with names.
What day was it?
Listen, all the days mashed into
They
one.
did, didn't they? They did.
Oh, this is going to really annoy me. I knew I shouldn't have brought this up because I couldn't remember the name of it.
Don't worry. Don't worry. You'll probably
Anyway,
remember towards the
it
end.
had like we drove by these like hills, and I'm not talking like little small hills, big hills, but there was a waterfall that ran down one of the hills. And
Oh,
honestly, I was like, this is the most incredible thing I will see.
mm,
And I was saying to you earlier, like I was in Malaysia for a month. I've been places. I've obviously lived Ireland, England, a lot of different places. But for me, seeing that like waterfall come down the side of that hill or mountain or whatever you want to call it was absolutely something.
stunning.
That image is in my mind
Mm,
forever, and I
mm,
wouldn't have had that unless I went on the EV rally. But even if you do a day, my thing would be always try and like educate your drivers before they go out in all situations. Don't just hand somebody keys to an electric vehicle and
yeah,
hope for the best,
yeah.
help them, educate them. I know you're not supposed to say that word, but as I said earlier, if somebody doesn't know something and then they know something, I think that is definition
Of
of
course it is.
education, right?
Absolutely.
So help them. We help each other. That's the whole thing of this. Like I was saying to you earlier, I don't see myself as a salesperson, or as
Mm,
what is in people's minds of a salesperson. My
mm,
whole point when somebody gets on a call with me is that when they get off or when they meet me, is that they know something they didn't know before.
yeah, yeah.
And I said to you, like, I never ever applied for a sales job in my life, right? I've just naturally progressed into them. But I don't see me having a conversation with you isn't me trying to get the sale out of you. I'm trying to understand what it is that you need. And if it's something you need that I don't sell, I'll still help you with that because
Mm,
that's what we're supposed to
mm,
do, right?
mm,
I've never, I get salespeople have a bad rep, right? We just do because, there's all these terms that are people, but I don't think all salespeople are the same as other
no.
people. Some of us just want to help people and make it better. And I've never worked for a company who would like make me force sales down somebody's throat because that isn't who I am. It's not at the core of what I want to be or who I am as a person.
Mm,
I just want to help and I want to make sure that you know something that you didn't know before you met me. And I think same for you, Liz. We're very similar in that way. You're extremely helpful and you want to make sure that everybody is okay and
yeah, it's
you're
true.
just salt of the earth is what I would say. That's how I would
Oh,
describe it. And I
bless you.
think the
And
mission and
likewise.
the journey that you're on, I think it's outstanding. It's incredible. I think, anybody who meets you or knows you knows that you are a true, genuine person. I
Oh,
don't think they see us in the same way because I can be quite direct, and I'm okay with that. Do you know what I mean? I'm two different personality types, but with the same goal. The whole point is to
absolutely.
help,
Yeah.
so.
So I want to talk. There's a couple of things I want to finish off with. First one is, have we covered all your products? Are there any other things that you're bringing out? Is there
There
anything
might
anything
be.
else you want to talk about?
We're always working on new stuff, but I think the newestest one that you will probably hear, because we've announced Power Pins, right, which was the private infrastructure and helping
Yes.
that.
For LG,
But
yeah,
we will
for
always be working on
your goods
about
vehicle.
15 different things in the background, although we're, you know, a group of, I think we're 12 now, so we're a group of 12 people. For anyone who's like, oh my God, how many people are there? We are 12 people.
Hmm.
But we're always working on different projects, and we're always like, what comes next? What's the newest thing? And for us currently, what is coming is salary sacrifice.
Okay.
And what that will do is that people who have salary sacrifice through work can add a power card to that and could save up to 50% on their public charging
Oh,
costs.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Again, it's
Mm.
that trying to make life. I was going to say
Mm.
it earlier, but I was like, should I, shouldn't I? Like Neil will probably be like, Pam, but it's coming soon. So, I mean, I
Watch
can
this
talk about
space.
it now. Yeah, and I
Love
think
it.
it is going to be a difference. Here's why I think it's important. And I think
Mhm.
people go, oh, they're just launching a new product. We don't just launch new products. There's a lot that thinking that goes into the background of that, right? So because we can help fleets and businesses so well, we want to also be able to help people in companies who are torn between going petrol and diesel, right?
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
petrol or liquid fuel, let's just say ICE vehicles. It's got so many names, I don't actually know what to refer it to.
No, I know.
So we want to, if we can offer this proposition that makes public charging cheaper for those drivers, it might make them change their mind from going with an ICE vehicle to go with an electric vehicle instead, because now public charging won't be so expensive, right?
Mm.
Now you will be able to save on the cost of putting public charging with a power card onto your as an offering to your staff. So for
Mm.
me, it's a win-win. You know,
Mm.
it's helping people make that transition, which is
Yes.
great. And it might change their mind. That for me is the nugget there, that somebody might change their mind from going from petrol and diesel and go for an electric instead, because that fear you had of public charging being so expensive and being so sparse isn't a thing, because now you get access to 55,000 connectors nationwide, and you actually get to save on the public charging costs. So win-win, right? Everyone's a winner.
Absolutely. There you go. That sounds like a song. Sound for,
I
time
did
for a
have a
hot
song in my
chocolate
head.
song. Yeah. Everyone's a
I did have
winner,
a song in
baby.
my, that's exactly the song I had in my head when I did that. I'm glad you picked up on
I
that, because
might
I
have to
didn't
actually
either.
play that because I love the guitar. Sorry, I don't normally sing on the podcast, but hey, that's the first time.
Well,
Or
every
maybe
time someone says power, I've got the power comes into my
I
head,
got
and
the power.
they mightn't even be referring to power. They might be talking about power or anything. But the minute I hear that word, I instantly hear that song in my head. And
Exactly.
yeah,
I want to finish off, right, by talking about your son.
yes, my little
So
munch,
you told me before we started recording. Remind me what his name is.
Jax,
Jax.
Jax.
Jax, I wanted to just say a personal thank you from me for listening because Jax is what, 9? Is he
He's just
9?
gone line. Yeah.
Jax is 9 and he listens to this podcast, which absolutely melted my heart this morning. Amazing. But I wanted you to tell everybody about the conversation that was he 7 when you had this
Yes.
conversation with it? Was it a taxi driver?
Yes.
Tell everybody what Jack said because this
Well,
is amazing. Love
firstly,
it.
thanks you for making the podcast so that my son could listen to it, because
Bless
he
him.
really, every morning when he wakes up, he'll come down and there'll be at least one question. And I think it's beautiful that you are educating people, not only people, but kids, right? So you're educating the next generation. For me, to be able to get my son to sit down and have something so informative and something that's so educational from people in the industry,
Mm.
to have my son be able to listen to that is incredible, right? But so I have two really funny stories. When my son was 7, we got into a taxi, and my son said to the taxi man, "Is this an electric vehicle?" And the taxi man said, "No, it's a hybrid." And he went, "Why have you got hybrid? And electric is so much better." You know those moments when you cringe in the back of the car, and I'm like, "Please, please stop, son, please stop." But the fact that he knows that, and that that's part of who he is now, to me, I'm so proud. The other thing is, when I started working in Phoenix Works, he was just starting in reception, so
Yeah,
literally
so
just
small.
starting.
Yeah.
And we were talking about work. I was saying, "Oh, once I drop you off, I have to go to work." And he said, "What do you do, Mum?" And there was a house that's right beside the school that has solar panels on it. And it's missing one, which really bothers me. But anyway, it has solar panels on it that I'm like, you could have just fit one more right there. Anyway, I said to my son, you see those panels on the house? And he was like, yeah. It was like, well, what they do is they generate energy from the sun that goes in and feeds the house, so they don't have to pull as much electricity. And I was trying to explain it as easy as I could for him. So I was like, they get all their electricity from the sun. Obviously not all, but how do you tell a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
So we were walking down into school, and he said, "Is that what you do, Mum?" And I said, "Yeah, well, we help people put this renewable energy onto their house." And he's like, "Are you a superhero, Mum?" And I was like, "Yes, son, that's exactly what I am. Mummy is a superhero. I am making a better world, and you will too." And so, yeah, from the age of like 4, he's been into it. So as soon as I started with the Phoenix Works and he started learning about it, it's something that's always in his mind, which is great.
Oh,
And I will forever be a superhero. So
I
great.
love it. I love it. And you don't wear your knickers outside your trousers, do you?
I
So,
mean, not on a normal day, but if you catch
no,
me out on a
on a
night out
weekend.
after we've had a few baby Guinnesses and stuff, it could be a
Let's
different
not go
story.
there. Oh, Pam, and do you know, you are a lovely, lovely person. It's been amazing talking to you.
Thank you.
Like I say, first podcast that you've ever done, and I am privileged to be the first podcast
Thank you.
host to
You
have
make it
you.
easier, though. It's nice to just chat with you. So you make it so much easier to sit here.
Bless you.
Like, some people may be nervous before they come on and do this, or be like, anxious about it. But I think it's you put people at ease. And the fact that we just have a chit chat conversation about it makes it so much easier.
Oh, bless you. Honestly, do you know what? And I've started saying this at the end of the podcast now, because I think this is really important. What Pam's just been saying earlier about all the things to do with her son and power and kind of EVs and everything like that. If you've been listening and watching to this, forget my teeth in. If you've been listening and watching this, look, yeah, you know what I'm saying.
You did it.
Can you please share? Because, the only way to actually get the word out about what we're trying to achieve, and I'm not just in it for the sake of it, I want to make things better. Just share it, like us on YouTube or across whichever audio platform you're listening to, put some reviews on, anything like that, to try and spread the word, because people need to hear Pam. They don't need to
I
necessarily
mean,
hear me.
they might like the old Irish accent a bit. I tell you, people like that here, right? I tend to
Absolutely.
find that people
Oh,
like
it's
the Irish
amazing.
accent.
But yeah,
But I do, it is so important to, like, because there's so much negative information out there. It's so useful, and it's so important to hear your podcast and be able to spread that news, and teach people. Stop listening to all the outside news. Even stop
yeah,
listening to our news. Just go try it for yourself.
yeah,
And I think you
absolutely.
do an incredible job of sharing that story. So if anybody listening could share that information and could get these more positive stories out there to be able to help other people, that would be incredible.
Exactly. And actually, some people don't, when you listen to a podcast or you watch a podcast, you don't realize that you're just kind of passive, aren't you? You're listening to it or watching it. But actually, if you do something active, like clicking that subscribe or that like or adding a comment or adding a review and things like that, the algorithms across all of the platforms will start taking notice, and actually hopefully you're doing something to get other people to listen, you know, or share. We have lots of posts on social media, so anything and everything is really, really appreciated. But on that note, Pam, I'm going to say thank you. You've just been amazing. I will share all of the kind of your web address and LinkedIn contacts and everything that I possibly can. And it's, by the way, so if you're listening and watching, it's PauaTech, Paua Tech, TECH.com. That is their website. Check it out. There's all sorts of information on there. Contact Pam, and yeah, just start kind of reaching out if you're not already on there, you know, kind of working with them. So, but Pam, thank you again. It's been brilliant talking to you, darling.
No problem. It's great talking to you too. And even if people just have questions or just want to have like a chat with me, just to ask me questions about stuff, we're always open to have a conversation. So I'm always happy to share whatever I know with people.
Bless you. Well, listen, on that note, I'm going to say to everybody, thank you for listening and watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Electric Evolution. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay connected with us. And if you're inspired by our journey towards a sustainable future and want to support our mission on a monthly basis, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Electric Evolution Podcast. Your support really helps us to bring the latest insights and discussions in the world of clean energy, electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging and sustainability to you. If a regular subscription isn't what you're looking for, you can always consider buying us a coffee. Just head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/Electric Evolution Podcast. Every cup helps us to keep the electric evolution moving forwards. And if you're curious about our work in the EV infrastructure sector at Full Circle Continuous Improvement, why not visit us at www.fullcircleci.co.uk to find out more. And if you want to send me a message, you can always email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. And finally, please don't forget to share this podcast if it sparked your interest. And let's keep spreading the word about all of these topics that we're covering. So, until next time, see you soon. Bye!